Hello, this is Mike, and welcome to Fairly Unbalanced. I want to start today by relating a story that my brother told me years ago. My brother works for the government in Washington, and he often has connection with space systems and the Department of Defense. And he told me one story, this is about 10 years ago. He had to do some traveling, and he went two places. One, he went to see the construction of the James Webb Space Telescope, which 10 years later ended up actually flying into space and is now at one of the Lagrange points, doing super deep field investigations of the early universe. And the other place he traveled was to take a tour of the Doomsday plane, the airplane that that one of the command staffs in the president's flotilla would fly if there was nuclear Armageddon, protected against EMPs and stuff like that. And he just noted that his weekend had entailed the two fundamental poles of human civilization. That quest to seek out truth and beauty and light, and also the destructive capacity that we have. And that reflection has been with me today, and was with me today as I scanned through the news and saw a few things. The first thing I saw was a clip from Tucker Carlson, a man who I loathe pretty much with the deepest passion I can loathe anyone, and I think he deserves it. As we all struggle in one form or another with the great complexities of the universe in our lives and of human passions, we try and engage in the putting together of the broken parts of this world, the algebra of this world. Whereas Tucker Carlson looks like he just always wants to get in a fight with a circle. He's cruel, he is vindictive, he's small, he's mean. He reminds me of every rich kid I ever knew growing up, who could pay someone else to beat you up if they wanted and would. He's a wicked, wicked man. And on his show last night, he was speaking about the Q Club massacre in Colorado Springs. And he, of course, said, we may never know why the killer chose this target. And the answer is, of course we frickin' know. He watches your show where you talk about this stuff all the time. So that was one part of my news scan today. Just the deep pain of confronting that violent part of us when people are out enjoying themselves, just trying to be loving and to be free and to seek for that truth and beauty and light. And I felt disheartened that it felt like the bastards were winning. And I moved on in my news scan, and I saw news about the Artemis mission, the Artemis and Orion mission, which is the beginning of human civilization's second attempt after 50 years of attempting to get back to the moon and to establish a permanent colony on the moon, for later expansion to Mars and other planets. And it's this hopeful, beautiful story. It involves that loving capacity, that search for truth, beauty, and light that was there in the James Webb Telescope and is there in so much of what we do. And so I'm stuck with these two stories, and in that effort to do the algebra, the putting together of the broken parts, my brain cast back to the story of Artemis and Orion. And I realized that that there's a lesson there for when you pull out the perceptual lens. If I could take my mind off the news of the moment and the misery, stay focused through the lens of the beauty, and then pull from a lesson from the past, there might be something of value there. And so I went back and did a little refresher on Artemis and Orion. Orion, as you probably know, is the great hunter. He was half god, half human. He was a son of Poseidon, and he could walk on the water. A little bit of foreshadowing there for other religions, possibly. But he was a brutal, toxic man. He was the kind of guy early on who might walk into a nightclub and just start killing people if that's what he wanted to do. Anyway, it's as these stories go, he travels the world and he sees a beautiful nymph. Her name is Mirape, and he falls in love. And he wants to marry Mirape, but given the structures of the society at the time, in order to do that, he needed to get the permission of her father, the king. So he asks for permission. The father says, "You can marry my daughter if you get rid of all the monsters in my kingdom." So Orion, big hunter, goes out and he gets rid of the monsters, and he comes back and he says, "Where's Mirape?" And the king is a dick. And he says, "Sorry, you can't have her." And so Orion gets drunk and he rapes her. He seizes what he feels is his, and for this he is punished by the king. He is blinded in the night. He loses his sight, and in this small way he's humbled, and he can't hunt, and he doesn't know what to do. So he goes to the Oracle of Delphi, and the Oracle gives a mystical answer, the result of which is, if you want to get your sight back, you need to travel far to the east, to Delos, where the sun rises out of the sea, where Apollo rises out of Poseidon. And if you're good enough, maybe you'll be able to get your sight back. So he takes a guide, he carries him on his shoulders, he travels off to the east, 40 days and 40 nights, and he travels forever, and he eventually gets there. And he's a good-looking guy, and the goddess of the dawn, Eos, falls in love with him, and she convinces Apollo to give him his sight back, to open his eyes. And so Apollo shines the light of the sun on him, and he gets his wisdom back, he gets his sight back. And then he goes on for further adventures. And the next place he shows up in sort of a narrative that breaks apart, because not a lot was written about Orion and the stories are contradictory and kind of retconned. He is hunting, and he runs into the goddess of the hunt, Orion, or Apollo's sister, Artemis. Now, Artemis, she's a unique figure in Greek mythology for a woman, for a female goddess. Her attributes are decidedly not amongst the standards of femininity as considered by the Greeks. She is a huntress. She is chaste. She has no lust or desire, and she wants absolutely nothing to do with men. And so, I mean, many of them they see her, she's beautiful, she's a goddess, she's Artemis, they try and and use their charms on her, and she smites them all or dismisses them. But Orion, his eyes opened from his wickedness before, sees her, and he does not judge her as something to possess. He sees her as goddess, but as a woman in full. And he hunts with her. And he is her partner, not her possessor. And for that, she loves him platonically and in the way that Artemis would love a man. And all is well, and they go out and they hunt. But But Orion, he still has some of that native toxicity in him that Tucker Carlson would recognize. And he starts to boast. He starts to brag about how he's the best hunter in the world. And if he wanted, he said he could kill every animal on the planet. And he said that within earshot of Gaia, the Earth Mother. And you don't say stuff like that around Gaia, the Earth Mother. And she says, this guy is a little bit too big for his britches. And so she creates and sends a scorpion to do battle with him. He's a great hunter, though, and so he does battle with the scorpion, and he uses his club and his sword, and the scorpion uses its sting, and he can't break its shell, and eventually the scorpion stings him and kills him, and Orion is no more. And his story would be over, but Artemis saw something in him, not his native toxic masculinity in the phrase we'd use today, but she saw his capacity to learn, and she saw his capacity to become better than he was. And in some stories, she does it herself. In some stories, she goes to Zeus and asks. But she has him catastrophized. She has him lifted up to the heavens. She has him placed among the stars as a constellation. And there's only one requirement from Gaia for this. And she said, if you're going to send this guy up into the heavens, you're taking the scorpion too. Because, well, he has the capacity to grow. His nature is always going to be in some part to destroy, and we need to balance him. And so, as I think about the Q Club massacre, as I think about Tucker Carlson, as I think about all of the toxicity that humans can manifest, and let's be honest, it's more often than not men who manifest it, that if we ever want to reach beyond, if we ever want to achieve that truth and beauty and light that is represented by a trip to the stars, then we're going to have to do that with the help of women, of Artemis, of the feminine aspect to ourselves, of the thing that will teach us that we need to transcend and be better. And this world is not about owning and possessing and hunting and destroying. It is about loving one another. And so those are my thoughts for the day. And of course, love to you all.